So, a new Harry Potter series is on the horizon, and the promise was a super faithful adaptation of the books. But then, the first trailer dropped, and just one single casting choice set the internet on fire. Today, we're going to break down that whole controversy, looking at it through the lens of an analysis from the YouTube channel Nerdrotic Daily, which really dug into the reveal of a black actor playing Severus Snape and the massive debate that came right after.
To really get our heads around this, we're going to follow the source's breakdown. First, we'll look at the initial spark, what actually happened, then we'll dive into their critique of the whole decision. After that, we'll get into their theory on why this change was made in the first place, and finally, we'll cover the fallout and their predictions for where this is all headed. Okay, so picture this. The trailer comes out, our first look at this brand new wizarding world. But according to the source, nobody was really talking about Hogwarts or Dumbledore or even Harry himself. Nope, the entire online conversation was almost instantly swallowed up by one single massive reaction.
The source points straight to the numbers to show what happened. Over on YouTube, yeah, the trailer got hundreds of thousands of likes, but it also got hit with over 130,000 dislikes. And that number was just keeping on climbing. For the source, this was the first huge flashing red light that the reception was, deeply split.
And if you want to understand just how big this conversation got, just look at these numbers the source pulled. The term Black Snape actually got more impressions on Twitter than the official trailer got views on YouTube. That's kind of wild, right? It suggests the debate around the casting didn't just happen alongside the trailer, it totally overshadowed it.
So here's the bottom line from the source's perspective. A character that was on screen for literally a few seconds completely hijacked the entire story. People stopped talking about the new Harry Potter show and started talking only about the new Snape.
Okay, so that's the what. Now, let's get into the why, as in why the backlash. We're going to move into the real core of the source's argument here. Their belief that this change completely breaks the promise of a faithful adaptation and, well, shows a total misunderstanding of the fans.
This quote right here really captures the source's frustration perfectly. The way they see it, the producers had the simplest, most guaranteed win imaginable. Just stick to the books. That's it. They see this casting choice as a completely unnecessary change that just managed to tick off a huge chunk of the audience right from the start.
For the source, the Snape casting isn't just one thing. It's like the dam breaking. They're worried it's a sign that other massive changes are coming. Things like modernizing the look of everything, adding new plot lines that were never in the books, or even moving away from seeing the whole story through Harry's eyes. In their view, this just risks chipping away at what made the original stories so special.
And it's not just about the casting either. The source also points to the aesthetic choices, like what they call a modern zipper outfit and dreadlocks for Snape, as more proof that they're moving away from the world we know from the books. They argue that part of the original's charm was how different and old-fashioned the wizarding world looked compared to our world, and they feel like that line is now getting blurred.
And this, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. Why? Why make this specific change? Well, the source has a theory, and they connect this one decision to what they see as a much bigger trend happening in media today.
The source zeroes in on a quote from the actor who was cast as Snape. He said that the online hate he was getting just motivates him to make the character my own. And the source uses this very statement as a jumping-off point for their main critique.
And their response is basically, whoa, hold on. They argue that this completely misses the point. Fans, they claim, don't want an actor to reinvent a character they already love. They want to see the character they know from the page interpreted on screen. So for them, this idea of making it your own just fundamentally misunderstands what an adaptation is supposed to be. Now, the source is really direct with their theory. They define what they call race swapping as having a very specific motive. From their point of view, the goal here isn't to give a bigger role to an existing black character from the books, like Dean Thomas or someone, but is instead about deliberately changing an established white character.
And to support this broader argument, the source brings in a quote from Dr. Dina McMillan. She argues that this whole approach of changing characters doesn't actually benefit minority communities. Instead, she says it just creates resentment by, in her words, bullying into white history instead of creating and celebrating stories from black history.
So with the lines clearly drawn in the sand, what does the source think the consequences are going to be? They talk about both the immediate online chaos and what they predict is going to be the long-term fate of the show.
One of the very first things that happened, as it always does online, was a massive explosion of memes, a reaction the source actually found pretty impressive. They called the fan-made stuff mocking the new look phenomenal, and basically saw it as the fans' own creative comeback to the decision. Now listen up, because this is a huge part of the source's argument. They claim this isn't just a surface-level change. It fundamentally messes with the subtext of the story. With this casting, Snape being bullied by James Potter and his friends could now be seen through a racial lens. His obsession with Lily Evans is suddenly viewed in a new light. And even classic scenes like Neville's boggart turning into Snape are, in their opinion, completely and unavoidably reframed.
So what's the endgame here? The source basically predicts the show is doomed. They argue it's going to push away the book fans who are mad about all the changes, but it also won't win over the author's critics, who are against the whole project for totally different reasons. Their final conclusion? The show has been made for nobody.
Ultimately, this whole firestorm, at least as it's framed by this one source, really boils down to this one massive question. For any story that we love, any story that's being remade, where is that line? Where do you cross from a faithful adaptation to a complete reinvention? It's a debate that's so much bigger than just this one show, and it's something we're all going to keep wrestling with.